For over 2 decades, the bedrock of *NCIS has been a comforting consistency. It is a procedural fortress where, week after week, justice is served, and the team, though battered, remains a constant. However, the 23rd season, which concluded in May 2026, systematically dismantled this foundation, catapulting the franchise into a narrative landscape that feels less like a familiar crime drama and more like uncharted, treacherous waters. While the season was bookended by the intense, personal quest of Alden Parker and a cliffhanger that left a core character's fate unknown, the true, secret comeback that redefined the show's very existence was the shocking, mid-season announcement that the Naval Criminal Investigative Service itself was being shut down. This decision to metaphorically and literally bomb the agency's headquarters was a seismic gamble, one that has left the series navigating a future without the very institution that gives the show its name and its characters their purpose. The season's narrative arc was a masterclass in escalating personal and institutional stakes, beginning with a tragedy that forced a new leadership style to the forefront. The 2-part premiere, Prodigal Son, found Alden Parker, Gary Cole, reeling from the murder of his father, a loss that sent him on a rogue pursuit of mob boss Carla Marino. This storyline was not just a typical revenge plot, it served as a crucial character study that solidified the post-Gibbs era. Unlike Leroy Jethro Gibbs, who famously shouldered his burdens and pursued personal vendettas in isolation, Parker's grief engulfed his entire team, jeopardizing their futures as they rallied to support him. This collaborative, emotionally vulnerable approach, particularly his reliance on Jessica Knight, starkly contrasted with Gibbs's lone wolf mentality and signaled a definitive tonal shift for the series, proving that the show was no longer just existing in Gibbs's shadow but forging its own identity. The premiere ended on a dramatic note with Parker's sister, Vice Admiral Harriet Parker, Nancy Travis, forced to fire on a ship she believed her brother was on, a devastating familial twist that set the tone for a season defined by personal loss. This deeply personal drama was cleverly interwoven with the season's most game-changing development, a bureaucratic upheaval that threatened to dismantle the team's entire reason for being. Tensions that had been simmering between Parker and director Leon Vance Rocky Carroll throughout the season finally boiled over in the pivotal episode, In Too Deep, leading Vance to drop a bombshell. The threat of the Army Criminal Investigative Division (CID) merging with NCIS was nothing compared to the reality. It was NCIS itself that was being shut down, a priority directive from the Department of Defense that would fold the agency into CID. This was not a temporary measure or a budget cut, it was a complete dissolution of the agency that had been the heart of the show since its 2003 inception. For a series so deeply entrenched in its institutional identity, this was a shocking and unprecedented twist, effectively canceling the agency within its own narrative and forcing the team to confront a world where they no longer had a badge to rely on. The 500th episode, All Good Things, directly addressed this fallout, featuring a fractured team operating off the books to help the son of a Marine Gibbs once aided, highlighting the desperation and moral quandaries that arose from their institutional abandonment. The cataclysmic shutdown of NCIS created a domino effect of uncertainty, acting as the catalyst for a series of other major character arcs and potential exits that kept the fanbase on edge. The introduction of CID Major Matthew Malone, Chad Michael Collins, in Army of One, followed a classic *NCIS playbook. An initial adversarial figure who earns the team's respect, prompting fears that his inevitable addition to the cast would mean the departure of a beloved main character. Simultaneously, the season was filled with nostalgia and potential goodbyes. The shocking return of Eleanor Bishop, Emily Wickersham, now a wanted cyber-terrorist, created a powerful reunion with Nick Torres, Wilmer Valderrama, and could easily serve as a plot device to write Torres out of the series, a theory fueled by the season finale's cliffhanger. Furthermore, McGee's personal life was upended with the revelation of a secret son, Mateo Garcia, adding a new layer of responsibility that could signal his readiness for a more stable, desk-bound role, potentially even stepping into a leadership vacuum created by the institutional chaos. The season finale, Sons and Daughters, attempted to weave these disparate threads into a cohesive, shocking conclusion, but the execution left many feeling that the show was rewriting history rather than building upon it. The episode was built around a year-later flashback to a coffee shop bombing, a case that intersected with the murder of director Vance, a death that many fans considered a narratively unnecessary shock. The finale's stakes were raised by the return of old villain Gabriel LaRoche, who maneuvered for power, and the revelation that McGee's son might be working for a nefarious they. The episode ended on a polarizing cliffhanger with a gunshot, leaving the fates of either Nick Torres or Mateo Garcia unknown. While this tactic is designed to build anticipation for season 24, critics noted that the emotional investment in the outcome was diluted because the audience had not been given enough time to connect with McGee's son as a character. Instead of being a strong exclamation point, the finale felt like half a story, a setup for a future payoff that the show had arguably not earned in its current season. Ultimately, Season 23 of *NCIS represents a watershed moment for the series. It moved beyond the grief of losing Gibbs and fully embraced the idea that the show's core strength lies not in an agency or a building, but in the resilience of its characters. By boldly declaring that NCIS was being shut down, the writers dismantled the very symbol of the team's identity, forcing them to operate in a world of moral ambiguity and survival, a true, uncharted territory. While the season was lauded for its willingness to take risks, evidenced by strong viewership numbers and a renewal for season 24, it was also criticized for a finale that relied on cheap cliffhangers and the emotional weight of guest characters over its core cast. As the show moves forward, the central question is no longer about which case the team will solve next, but whether the team itself can survive and redefine their purpose outside the protective walls of the Navy Yard, making the future of *NCIS more unpredictable and narratively daring than ever before.